Hi guys, so today I'm going to be doing a book review on Sanctuary's Fiend by A. Lynch, and this was sent to me from the author in exchange for an honest review. This book follows a 16-year-old girl called Rel, and she is kind of part of this community of supernatural creatures. So she has a best friend who's a siren and a ghost, and there's like gargoyles, and her parents are an incubus and a succubus, and she is a vampire, but she kind of is like at the point where she's going through like vampire puberty, so she's never had any like vampire tendencies before, but now she's like growing the fangs and wants to drink blood and stuff like that. There's more to the story than just that, but that's all I'm going to say for now. I gave this book 1.5 out of 5 stars. Now I just want to say right off the bat that not every book is for everybody. If you really enjoyed this book, I have nothing against you. I have nothing against the author. I just personally did not enjoy this book. It just wasn't the book for me. Now, the only reason that I gave this book an extra 0.5 stars was because it had diverse characters and short chapters. Thank God for short chaptered books. It did have 2 same-sex couples, so I thought that was good. It had nice diverse characters, but personally that was like the only thing that I found as a positive for this book. I've mentioned before on my channel that I really have to connect with the characters in order to enjoy a book, and if I don't connect with the characters, then it better be a very good storyline, otherwise I just won't enjoy the book. And with this book, I just felt like there was nothing to the characters. It was like they were just there. One of the things that I feel was a really big downfall for this book was that it only had like 200 pages. I think it was like 199 pages or something like that. And for an urban fantasy sort of book, I feel like it should have been a bit longer. I mean, I'll give it that much. This book was very action-packed. There was never a dull moment. Things were constantly happening, but I feel like there had to be a point at the like beginning or something where we could just get to know the characters, especially the main character, Rel, and I just don't think there was ever that moment to really get to know her. It also seemed more of like a middle grade book, just with the way it was written and stuff like that, as well as the cover. I just kind of assumed it would be more of a middle grade book, as well as the fact that it is only like 200 pages. And I do think that this book would have been really great for a younger audience to read. I think they would really enjoy the whole aspect of like this vampire girl going to like a normal high school in the human world. Unfortunately, I wouldn't recommend this for a younger audience because there was some strong language and many sexual references throughout the story, which is a shame because I do think younger readers would have really enjoyed this. Another problem I had with the book was that it was told from 2 different perspectives. One was from Rel and the other one was from another character, and it was like if they hadn't put the name of the character in the beginning of each chapter as to what the point of view was, I probably wouldn't have known who was who because there was nothing that like differentiated the characters. Both perspectives, the writing was very humorous and sarcastic, and I just felt like there should have been a bigger difference between both of the characters in order to tell who it was that was talking, which is another thing that brings it back to there wasn't anything to the characters. Like, they were all just there, like, exactly the same. There were also quite a few things in the story that I just didn't understand. They just didn't make any sense to me. One was the different sort of, like, powers that these supernatural beings have. There's this certain thing called, like, glamorizing or something, and I didn't really understand that power, and it was used pretty often in this book, but I just didn't really get what it was or how it came to be for all of these supernatural beings. There was also this bit of the story where Rel, who is an American, goes over to a boy's house who is British. And when she goes into his house, she mentions that there is a picture of the Queen on the wall. And later on in the story, we learn that that wasn't actually the Queen, it was just a random lady. Either that random lady looked freakishly similar to the Queen, or Rel doesn't know what the Queen looks like. And at first I was like, okay, well maybe like these supernatural people aren't really up to date on like human stuff, but then the characters had made references to Legolas and the Force, so obviously they're up to date on like human culture, so surely she should know what the Queen looks like. As well, there were certain parts of the story where Rel was using sort of like British terms for things, and maybe it's just the part of America where I'm from that we don't use these terms, but like I've never heard an American use these kinds of words before. The 2 instances that I can remember off the top of my head was at one point she referred to like going up to the queue at a coffee shop, like standing in the queue, or those people are queuing up, whereas in America, or at least the part that I'm from, we would say standing in line, or those people are lining up, stuff like that. And then there was another part where she was saying, like, he's in hospital or he's at hospital, where in America we would say he's in the hospital or he's at the hospital. I feel like that's like an important part of the story because Rel actually is going over to this British boy's house to kind of like tutor him on how it's like in America and how we speak and stuff like that, but the fact that she's using like British terms, I feel kind of like threw that off. I mean, don't get me wrong, I watch a lot of British TV shows and a lot of British YouTubers, so I use a lot of British slang, but I also know what the Queen looks like. I'm sorry, I'm getting real sassy. I need to tone it down a little bit. The part that didn't make any sense to me was that Rel's friend is a siren. She's called Ariel, and because she's a siren, she can't speak or anything like that. So she used text to speak to everybody. So when she was texting, the author would use a different font to like show that she's texting. But then it changed and it was the same font as everything else, and it was just like this random sentence, and then like Rel would answer her question out loud. So that was really confusing. I didn't know why it was like changing font, because then it was hard to understand when Ariel was talking and when it was Rel thinking. There were also quite a few typos in this book. Just throwing that out there because I'm OCD about that. So yeah, I think that's all of my thoughts on this book. Overall, I just didn't enjoy the story. I couldn't connect with the characters, which is a big issue for me. Some of the things just didn't make any sense to me. So those are my thoughts on Sanctuary's Fiend by A. Lynch. I believe this is the first book in a series. If it sounds like something that would interest you, I think you should pick it up because I know a lot of other people really liked it. It has like 4 or 5-star ratings on Goodreads. Leave me a comment down below and let me know if you've read this book and what you thought of it. And if I'm just being really dumb, it would also be really helpful if you could just explain some of the things that didn't really make sense to me, just so I could understand it a bit better. And yeah, that's all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye! Down below and let me know if you've read this. Why can't I speak?